Oma Chronicle Part 5, with the inevitable. Oma sat motionless beside her father's hospital bed. The room felt unusually quiet. Outside, nurses moved through the corridor. Medical equipment hummed softly. But inside the room, there was only silence. A silence filled with years of unspoken words. Chief Okafor still held her hand. His grip was weak from illness, yet firm enough to reveal his determination. For several moments, neither spoke. Then Chief Okafor took a deep breath. Uma. Yes, father. Tears gathered in his eyes. I have been a terrible father. The words struck her harder than she expected. Not because they were surprising, but because hearing him admit it felt almost unbelievable. The powerful man who had spent years avoiding responsibility was finally facing it. She remained silent, allowing him to continue. I owe you more apologies than I can count. His voice trembled. I should have protected you. I should have encouraged you. I should have celebrated your achievements. Fresh tears rolled down his cheeks. But I didn't. Oma felt her own eyes filling. Still, she said nothing. This was something he needed to do. Something he needed to say. Chief Okafor stared toward the ceiling, as though looking directly into the past. When your mother first told me she was pregnant, I was afraid. Oma listened carefully. This was the first time he had ever spoken about her mother. At that time, I was already involved with Ngozi. His voice carried shame. I was young, selfish, foolish. I handled everything badly. He closed his eyes. When your mother disappeared from my life, I convinced myself the situation was over. The confession became increasingly difficult. I never knew you existed. Oma lowered her head. Part of her wished things had remained that way. Perhaps everyone would have suffered less. Yet another part knew she had deserved to know her father, even if the outcome had been painful. The old man swallowed hard. Then one day you appeared. His voice cracked. Standing in my dining room. The memory remained vivid. Painfully vivid. I remember looking at you. He laughed bitterly. You looked so much like your mother. Oma smiled sadly. Many people had told her the same thing. Chief Okafor continued. And before I could even process what was happening, his voice faltered. Ngozi collapsed. The room fell silent. The memory clearly haunted him. Even now. Even after all these years. I loved her. His eyes filled with fresh tears. I loved her more than anything. Oma squeezed his hand gently. She had always known. Even as a teenager. The depth of his grief had been impossible to miss. When she died, something inside me broke. The confession came quietly. I couldn't accept it. I couldn't understand it. I needed someone to blame. Oma already knew where the story was going. Yet hearing it still hurt. Chief Okafor looked directly at her. And I blamed you. The words hung heavily in the air. I know. Her voice was barely a whisper. The old man's face crumpled. No. He shook his head. You don't know. Tears streamed freely now. You have no idea how ashamed I am. Oma felt her own tears falling. I saw your report cards. He continued. I saw your awards. I saw how hard you worked. His voice broke completely. And every time I should have been proud. He looked away. I chose bitterness instead. The guilt in his face was unbearable. I watched you try to earn my love. Oma, I saw it. Those words shocked her. For years she had assumed he hadn't noticed. That her efforts had gone unseen. Apparently not. He had noticed everything. The realization hurt. Yet somehow it also healed. Because at least now she knew. She had never been invisible. He had simply been trapped inside his own grief. A prisoner of pain. Chief Okafor wiped his eyes. I remember your graduation. Oma looked up. He smiled sadly. You kept glancing toward me. A lump formed in her throat. She remembered. She had spent the entire ceremony hoping he would smile. Hoping he would look proud. I wanted to tell you how proud I was. His voice trembled. But I couldn't. Why? The question escaped before she could stop it. Chief Okafor lowered his head. Because I was weak. A simple answer. Yet perhaps the most honest one. I thought if I let myself love you, it would mean letting go of Ngozi. He laughed bitterly. What a foolish thing to believe. Oma listened quietly. I spent years choosing grief over love. The words struck deep. Because they were true. Terribly true. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Chief Okafor took another deep breath. There is something else. Oma waited. His expression became even more painful. Every time I looked at Chike, I saw the future I wanted. His voice softened. And every time I looked at you, I saw the past I couldn't escape. Oma closed her eyes briefly. Those words explained everything. The favoritism. Not because Chike deserved more. But because her father had never truly been seeing either of them clearly. He had been looking through the lens of his own pain. Finally, Chief Okafor turned toward her completely. The tears in his eyes reflected years of regret. Years of guilt. Uma. Yes, father. His voice became a whisper. Can you forgive me? The question shattered what remained of her emotional defenses. Because the man before her was no longer the powerful father who had once intimidated her. He was an old man. A sick man. A broken man. And despite everything, she loved him. Oma wiped away her tears. Then she smiled softly. The same gentle smile she had inherited from her mother. The same smile that had comforted countless people throughout her life. I forgave you years ago. Chief Okafor stared. What? She nodded. I stopped being angry a long time ago. Fresh tears rolled down his face. How? The question carried genuine confusion. Oma thought for a moment. Then answered honestly. Because carrying anger hurts the person carrying it. The wisdom of her words struck him deeply. She continued. I didn't want bitterness to define my life. The old man shook his head slowly. Uma. His voice cracked again. You are a better person than I deserve. She squeezed his hand. No. A faint smile appeared. You are still my father. For the first time in decades, Chief Okafor allowed himself to cry openly. Tears to release the burden he had carried for years. Several days later, his recovery continued. The doctors remained optimistic. One afternoon he called Oma again. She entered the room smiling. You sent for me. Chief Okafor nodded. There was warmth in his eyes now. A warmth she had never seen before. I want to meet them. Oma frowned. Meet who? A genuine smile spread across his face. My grandsons. Immediately tears filled her eyes. For years she had dreamed of hearing words like that. Not because they were dramatic. But because they were normal. The words of a grandfather. The words of family. The words she had always wanted. Chief Okafor reached for her hand. Bring David and Daniel Jr. His eyes shone with emotion. I want to spend time with them. Oma smiled through her tears. You will. And for the first time since she had arrived at his mansion as a frightened 16-year-old girl, she felt something she had never felt before. Accepted. And as she left the hospital room to arrange the visit, neither of them realized how precious those coming days would become. Oma left the hospital room with tears of happiness in her eyes. For years she had imagined what it would be like if her father finally accepted her. Now, for the first time, she felt that acceptance beginning to grow. It had arrived late. Painfully late. But it had arrived nonetheless. And she intended to cherish every moment of it. The following afternoon, Oma returned to the hospital accompanied by Daniel and the twins. David and Daniel Jr. were now energetic little boys with endless curiosity and boundless energy. The moment they entered the room, the atmosphere changed. Laughter replaced silence. The twins immediately began exploring their surroundings. "Mommy, is this Grandpa's room?" David asked. Oma smiled. "Yes." The little boy looked toward the hospital bed. "Hello, Grandpa." Chief Okafor froze. The simple greeting struck him harder than he expected. His eyes immediately filled with tears. For several moments he couldn't speak. Then he smiled. A genuine smile. One that reached his eyes. "Hello." Daniel Jr. walked closer. "Mommy said you're sick." Daniel nearly choked trying not to laugh. Oma covered her mouth. Chief Okafor chuckled softly. "Yes. Very sick." The old man smiled. "A little." The child nodded thoughtfully. Then climbed onto the bed beside him. "Don't worry." Chief Okafor blinked. "What?" The boy patted his hand. "You'll get better." The room erupted with laughter. Even the nurses outside smiled when they heard it. Over the following days, the twins became regular visitors. Every afternoon they arrived with endless stories. Questions. Games. And enough energy to exhaust everyone around them. Chief Okafor adored every minute. Sometimes he would sit quietly watching them play. The happiness they brought was unlike anything he had experienced in years. One afternoon, while David colored pictures at a nearby table, Chief Okafor looked toward Oma. "I miss so much." The sadness in his voice was unmistakable. Oma followed his gaze. The twins were laughing together, completely unaware of the emotional weight surrounding them. "You still have time." Chief Okafor smiled sadly. "Not enough." The words lingered in the air. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Because both understood the truth behind them. As his health stabilized, doctors allowed him longer periods outside his room. Soon he was walking through hospital gardens. Sitting outdoors. Enjoying fresh air. The improvement delighted everyone. Especially the twins. One afternoon, David insisted on racing him down a small pathway. Chief Okafor laughed. "I think you'll win." "No." David protested. "You have to try." The old man pretended to run. Very slowly. The child celebrated his victory enthusiastically. For nearly 10 minutes. Daniel Jr. then demanded his own race. Chief Okafor lost that one too. Quite deliberately. By the end of the afternoon, he was exhausted. But happier than anyone had seen him in years. One evening, after the children had gone home, Chief Okafor sat quietly beside the window. Watching the sunset. Oma sat nearby. Reading. The peaceful silence felt comfortable. Then suddenly he spoke. "They have your eyes." Oma looked up. "What?" "The boys." A smile appeared on his face. "They have your eyes." The comment warmed her heart. He continued. "And your kindness." She laughed softly. "I'm not sure about that." "I'm sure." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Chief Okafor sighed. "You know what hurts most?" Oma lowered her book. "What?" "I spent years convincing myself I had lost everything." His voice became quiet. "But I didn't." He looked toward her. "I still had you." Tears immediately filled Oma's eyes. Those simple words meant more than any apology. More than any explanation. Because they acknowledged something she had always hoped was true. That despite everything, she mattered. A week later, Chief Okafor requested a family lunch. It was a simple gathering. Just himself, Uma, Daniel, and the twins. The occasion felt surprisingly normal. Like something they should have done years ago. The children spent most of the meal talking. Or arguing. Or laughing. As children often do. At one point, Daniel Jr. pointed toward Chief Okafor. "Grandpa." "Yes." "Why is your hair white?" The entire table burst into laughter. Chief Okafor shook his head. "Because I'm old." The child frowned. "Very old. Very old." The answer seemed to satisfy him. For about 30 seconds. Then another question followed. By the end of lunch, everyone was laughing. Including Chief Okafor. A sound Oma had rarely heard throughout her life. Later that evening, after the twins had fallen asleep, Chief Okafor called Oma into his room. She entered quietly. "You wanted to see me?" He nodded. There was something serious in his expression. "Uma?" "Yes." He reached for her hand. The gesture had become familiar now. Comforting. "I need you to promise me something." Concern filled her eyes. "What is it?" His voice softened. "When I'm gone." Immediately she interrupted. "Father." "No." He smiled gently. "Listen." Reluctantly, she nodded. "When I'm gone, don't carry guilt." The statement surprised her. "What do you mean?" Chief Okafor looked away briefly. Then back toward her. "I know you." She frowned. "You've always blamed yourself." Her heart skipped. Because he was right. She had. For years. A hidden part of her had wondered whether things would have been different if she had never appeared. Chief Okafor saw the answer in her eyes. And immediately understood. "You see." Tears formed in his own eyes. "You still blame yourself." Oma looked down. Unable to deny it. The old man took a deep breath. Then spoke with absolute certainty. "Listen to me." She looked up. "What happened was not your fault." His voice was firm. Stronger than she had heard in months. "You were a child." Tears slipped down Oma's cheeks. Chief Okafor continued. "You came looking for your father. That is all." The words struck deep. Because they were words she had needed to hear for years, decades even. "If anyone is responsible," he said quietly, "it is me." The room fell silent. "I created the situation. I hid the truth. I made mistakes." His voice trembled. "You did nothing wrong." Oma cried openly now. Years of buried guilt began dissolving. For a long time they sat together. Father and daughter. Sharing a peace that had taken decades to achieve. Eventually Chief Okafor smiled. A tired smile. But a genuine one. "Bring the boys again tomorrow." Oma laughed through her tears. "I will." The old man nodded. "I want more stories." She smiled. The next few days were some of the happiest Chief Okafor had experienced in years. Every afternoon, Oma arrived with the twins. Every visit brought laughter. Every conversation brought peace. For the first time in decades, the bitterness that had consumed so much of his life seemed distant. Almost forgotten. The hospital staff noticed the difference. The old man who had once stared silently out of windows now smiled regularly. He told stories. He laughed. He spoke about the future. Yet beneath the improvement, his body was growing weaker. The doctors noticed. The nurses noticed. Even Daniel noticed. Only Oma refused to see it. Or perhaps she simply didn't want to. After losing so much in her life, she wasn't ready to lose her father too. Not now. Not after finally finding him. One evening, after completing several tests, Chief Okafor's doctor requested a private meeting. The moment Oma entered the office, she sensed something was wrong. The doctor's expression revealed everything before he spoke. Her stomach tightened. "Doctor." The man sighed heavily. "We need to prepare ourselves." Those words immediately filled her with fear. "What do you mean?" The doctor folded his hands. "Your father has improved emotionally. But physically?" His voice trailed off. Oma felt her heart pounding. "Physically what?" The doctor lowered his eyes. "There is very little more we can do." The room became silent. Painfully silent. For several moments, Oma simply stared. Unable to process the words. Unable to accept them. The doctor continued gently. "We believe he may only have a limited amount of time left." Tears instantly filled her eyes. "No." The word escaped before she could stop it. The doctor looked sympathetic. "I'm sorry." But the apology offered little comfort. That night, Oma sat beside her father's bed long after visiting hours ended. The room was dark except for a small bedside lamp. Chief Okafor was awake, quietly watching her. Eventually he smiled. "You spoke to the doctor?" It wasn't a question. She nodded, unable to speak. The old man sighed softly. "I figured." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You're getting better." The statement sounded more like a plea than a fact. Chief Okafor reached for her hand. "My daughter." The words alone nearly broke her. He rarely called her that. "My daughter." The words carried love. Real love. "I've lived a long life." She shook her head. "No. Uma. No." Her voice cracked. The old man smiled sadly. "You know." She did know. Deep down, she knew. And that made it hurt even more. The following morning, Chief Okafor asked to see the twins. Immediately, Oma brought them. The boys rushed into the room as usual, completely unaware of what was happening. To them, this was simply another visit with Grandpa. Another chance to tell stories, ask questions, and create mischief. Chief Okafor welcomed every moment. He listened carefully as David described his latest school project. He laughed as Daniel Jr. proudly explained why he believed vegetables were unnecessary. He even joined their argument about which superhero was strongest. The nurses watching through the doorway smiled. The scene was beautiful. Heartbreaking. But beautiful. Later that afternoon, Chief Okafor requested a few moments alone with the boys. Oma hesitated, but agreed. She and Daniel stepped outside. Inside the room, the twins sat beside the old man. He looked at them carefully, memorizing their faces, their smiles, their laughter, everything. Because somehow he knew this would be their final conversation. "My boys." The children looked up. "Yes, Grandpa." Chief Okafor smiled. "I want you to listen carefully." They nodded. He pointed toward the door. "Your mother is one of the strongest people you will ever meet." The twins exchanged confused glances. The old man chuckled. "You may not understand now, but one day you will." His eyes became moist. "Take care of her." The children nodded, though they clearly didn't understand. And perhaps that was for the best. Some lessons belong to adulthood. That evening, Chike unexpectedly appeared. The atmosphere immediately changed. No one had seen him in nearly 2 weeks. He entered the room looking uncomfortable. For the first time in years, his confidence seemed absent. Perhaps reality had finally caught up with him. Chief Okafor looked at him quietly. Neither spoke for several moments. Then Chike lowered his head. "Dad." The old man's voice was weak. "Sit." Chike obeyed. For the next hour, they talked. Privately. No one else heard the conversation. No one else knew exactly what was said. But when Chike finally emerged, his eyes were red. And for the first time in anyone's memory, he looked genuinely ashamed. That night, Chief Okafor's condition suddenly worsened. Doctors rushed in. Machines beeped urgently. Nurses moved quickly through the room. Omar stood frozen outside. Watching. Praying. Crying. Daniel held her tightly. Neither spoke. Words were useless now. Only hope remained. And hope was fading. Shortly before dawn, a nurse approached. "You can come in now." Together, she and Daniel entered the room. Inside, Chief Okafor looked peaceful. Very peaceful. His breathing was shallow. His eyes opened as they approached. Immediately he smiled. "Uma." She rushed to his side. "I'm here." The old man nodded. "I know." His gaze shifted toward Daniel. "Take care of her." Daniel swallowed hard. "I will." Chief Okafor smiled. "I know you will." Then he turned back toward Omar. For several moments, he simply looked at her. As though trying to memorize her face. The face he had spent years refusing to see. The face of the daughter who had loved him anyway. Tears filled his eyes. "Uma." "Yes, father." His voice was barely audible. "I'm proud of you." The words shattered her. She had waited her entire life to hear them. And now, finally, they had come. Not because she earned them. Not because she demanded them. But because he truly meant them. Fresh tears streamed down her face. "I love you, father." A smile spread across his face. The warmest smile she had ever seen from him. "I love you too." The room became silent. Those were the words she had dreamed about since childhood. The words she had stopped hoping to hear. And now they had finally been spoken. Chief Okafor took a slow breath. Then another. His eyes began to close. "Uma." She leaned closer. "Yes." His final words came softly. Almost like a whisper. "Thank you." A single tear slipped down his cheek. Then his breathing slowed. Until finally, it stopped. The room fell completely silent. The machines confirmed what everyone already knew. Chief Okafor was gone. Omar sat motionless, holding his hand. Unable to move. Unable to speak. The grief came slowly at first. Then all at once. She lowered her head and cried. Not because she had lost the father she wished for. That man had never existed. She cried because she had lost the father she finally found. Just when they had begun healing. Just when they had begun understanding each other. Just when love had finally arrived. Life had taken him away. Daniel wrapped his arms around her. Holding her as she cried. Holding her as years of pain and healing mixed together. Holding her as she said goodbye. Several days later, after the funeral, the family gathered at the old mansion. The atmosphere felt strange. Empty. Chief Okafor's absence seemed to linger in every room. Yet another shock awaited them. One that would change everything. Because while Oma had been caring for her father. While she had been paying hospital bills. While she had been fighting to save his life. Someone else had been making very different decisions. And those decisions would soon leave the family with almost nothing. For Chike had done far more damage than anyone realized. And the consequences were finally about to be revealed. The end. Watch out for part 6. Do not forget to like, comment and subscribe for more. Thanks.